Dream Theater, granddaddies of our beloved genre of prog metal. And this is why I've got my extra special anti-woman goggles on, because, you know, Dream Theater, the music of my people, right? It's our sacred virgin music. I remember the first time I listened to Dream Theater, and my guitar tutor one day brought in the videotape of scenes from New York, and I remember he stuck on Overture 1928. I remember this song came on, and I just sort of like turned around to the TV slowly, like... I was like, what is that? What is this beautiful, long-haired songstress? And from that moment on, I just like went deep down the Dream Theater rabbit hole. What's interesting about Dream Theater, right, is that they pretty much single-handedly like invented this sort of music. And they've somehow still stayed pretty relevant. So what we do on these deep dives, we traverse through the entirety of a band's back catalogue and have a little bit of discourse on, like, you know, whether the album was good or bad. And then at the end, of course, we rank them in a tier list. Before we go any further, I just want to let you know that I'm now offering a 7-day free trial for my online guitar school. Unlock the entire archive of super fun lessons, exercises, and content. Follow my guided roadmap step by step that takes you from beginner all the way to pro. Click the link in the description below to visit Bradley Hall's Guitar School and sign up today for free. All right, so let's get started on their discography. Their debut studio album all the way back in 1989. Whoa. So this was before James Labrie even joined. They had their original vocalist, Charlie Dominici. I'm not too familiar with this album, I do admit. Listen to the first one. It still very much sounds like the Dream Theater we know and love, right? Oh, I fucking love the production, actually.
I can remember when
It's so weird, though, hearing Dream Theater like with a different singer. It feels like you're cheating on your partner or something. Oh, I feel like I shouldn't be listening to this. This album isn't as bad as people say it is, to be honest. Like, I don't hate it. All right, so moving on to the next album. Images and Words. One of the most legendary, iconic albums in all of prog. So Charlie left, and we had, of course, James Labrie coming to the fold, his first album. There's not really too much to say about this album, right? It's classic. They pour me under, you know, the band's most, like, you know, commercially successful smash hits. Oh! James Labrie sounds significantly less annoying on this album as well. And of course, you got Another Day. This is like the most fucking 90s song ever. Beautiful melody. Solo, we're gonna get to the solo. Of course, you got the Big Daddy, Metropolis, part 1. Alright, and then we move on. Awake. Ironically, because of the title, I feel like this album is actually quite slept on by a lot of people. Their record label apparently wanted the band to sort of just head in a more sort of like straightforward metal direction to make the band easier to market. And it turned out pretty good. I feel like Awake is a lot more influential than Images and Words. And I feel like all of like the prog metal bands today, you can hear a lot of like the beginnings of that in Awake. Like The Mirror, for example. This is a technique called metric modulation. And what's happening, right, is Mike Portnoy is just sort of like fucking with the syncopation. He's sort of like changing where like the backbeat is and stuff. There are actually so many bangers on this album. I think there's only a couple of stinkers, really. Following that up, we have... I'm going to put Change of Seasons on here. I think it's one of the best things the band's ever done. I just love the vibe of this song. Even though it's 23 minutes long, it just goes by so quickly. It just flows so well. I love the drum sound as well. Very nice, good, special, cool, good, nice song. Then after that, we have Falling Into Infinity. This album is just like really boring. The label was apparently encouraging the band to write more radio-friendly songs. Unsurprisingly, it just ends up being a massive disaster and a massive flop because the band are just like not invested in it. See, it sounds like fucking Alice in Chains, doesn't it? Hello Years. I think this might be the only song that I don't mind on the album. Sit down, young man. What would you like? You want a bigger chungus pizza? Yeah? You bigger chungus pizza? You want a bigger chungus pizza? Nice song, though. Very chill. It's like Lions in the Sand. It's sort of like, you know, the full-on Dream Theater experience. Okay, things start to get interesting now, you know. So we got Scenes from a Memory, probably my personal favorite Dream Theater album of all time. Fucking masterpiece. So Derek Sherinian goes, and then we've got Jordan Rudess, the keyboard wizard himself, Lord and Savior. When he joined the band, he just went like all out to try and like impress the band. I'm glad he did, because it really paid off. And that's why you get stupid shit like, you know, Dance of Eternity with the ragtime piano solo. All this stuff. You'd never get fucking Derek Sherinian playing stuff like that, right? So, it's a concept album. It's about a guy who remembers that he was a woman in a past life who was shot or something. And he goes on this mission to try and solve the mystery. So he's sort of like, he's getting hypnotized, trying to remember shit. And of course, you've got Overture 928. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. There are just so many amazing moments on this album. But this song has like the wildest instrumental passage later. You got Spirit Carries On. I love the end of the solo that goes into like the last chorus. Alright, 6 Degrees of Inner Chungus. This album is like very well liked, but I'll be honest, I never really got into this album. There's just something just like very forgettable about it. The Glass Prison is pretty cool. Oh, I love that shit that Mike Portnoy is doing. He just like keeps fucking like moving where like the beat starts. I really like that this album went a bit more orchestral. Whenever anyone recommends a Dream Theater song, it's always like fucking like 15 minutes. It's like, oh.
We honestly think that maybe.
Sounds like fucking System of a Down. That's something I do kind of admire about Dream Theater, is that they've always just worn their influences on their sleeve, right? You know, they hear something that they like, and they just like fucking rip it off in a song. After this, we have Train of Thought. Let's go. So this is when Dream Theater entered their new metal Frosted Tips era. This was peak John Petrucci. Hell yeah. Apparently, this is the album where they wanted to go back and just write a more sort of like balls to the wall, no nonsense, heavy album. I think this might be my favorite sounding drum kit of all time. The drums on this album sound so fucking good. Oh, this bit where it goes double time. Oh! Stonker. But my favorite solo on this album is actually probably Endless Sacrifice. Fucking ridiculous. And the best thing, the single best thing about this album is James LaBrie rapping.
Well, listen to me, you ungrateful fool. Here comes the truth of reality. You go to your grave.
I'm hoping they'll have more rapping in the new album. That would be fucking sick. Little Chungus, yeah. Little Brie. Right, Octavarium. Whoa. This might be my second favorite. Absolute masterpiece again. The band decided to create a classic Dream Theater album, drawing upon their various stylistic influences, aka ripping off. They just like straight up rip Muse off so much. James has completely changed his singing style on this album just to sound more like Matt Bellamy. It's kind of funny. And you got like Answer Lies within. Panic Attack, of course. Now, there's a lot of Muse ripping off on this one. And yeah, Never Enough is like Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, compare that with this. Octavarium solo live. This is the most perfect solo of all time, in my opinion. It's just like perfect note choices. Oh. Alright, then following up, we have Systematic Chaos. This is a very weird album. Yeah, it's half very epic, bloated, like 15-minute songs, but then you have half also like sort of quite short, you know, very accessible bangers. Forsaken, the edgy vampire song. Name! Sick solo though. Proper like Yngwie Malmsteen worship. Alright, next up is Black Clouds, I believe. And actually, interesting enough, this was a major commercial success of the band. The production on this album is like, mwah, very dark intro. It reminds me a bit of like Dimmu Borgir or something even. Where's like the day after day? What was he thinking, man? It's so bad. And of course, Count of Tuscany, easily top 5 best Dream Theater songs of all time. Amazing song. I just love the whole sort of interlude. Oh. All right, then after that, Mike Portnoy leaves the band and enter other Mike Mangini. I never really got into this one too much. Like, I really like a few songs off it. Epic. Pretty sick chorus. Bridge in the Sky. I think this was maybe the song that I remember liking the most. After this, we're going to Dream Theater, the self-titled album. So, I know a lot of people hate on this album, but actually, I was pleasantly surprised. There's actually a lot of bangers on here, and I liked how the intro especially was like very cinematic. Kind of wish they'd do more songs like this with like a full orchestra. Enemy Inside. This was actually a fucking banger. See a lot of people hating on this song, but I actually quite like it. It's like really obvious Rush worship. You have this really sick, like, orchestral interlude in the middle. You want the bigger Chungus pizza, eh? Eh? Some bigger Chungus pizza, eh? After this, The Astonishing. What an awful name for an album. Yeah, so this is like 2 hours and 10 minutes of self-indulgent wankery, basically. The Astonishing is set in a dystopian future United States and follows the Ravenskill rebel militia. Fucking hell, man. They write like fucking 16-year-olds. They're saved by the magical power of music. Fuck yeah. So we'll start with The Gift of Music. This was like the lead single. You got this like crazy, complicated music, but then you've got this like high school level fucking like narrative shit going on. It's just like really lame. Yeah, like this one as well was like especially bad. We'll build a new world, a wondrous world, a bold new world. All right, Distance Over Time. The lead single for this one was Untethered Angel. This is pretty sick. This is that video that K-Mac did a parody for, right? Yeah, after the, like, ambitious monstrosity of The Astonishing, they decided to create a more sort of, like, tighter and focused album. And apparently, this was their most commercially successful album. I think my favorite on this album is probably Barstool Warrior. And this song has some beautiful guitar work. It's alright. It's not a bad album. Alright, so we come now to the last Dream Theater album, A View from the Top of the World. So the lead singer was The Alien. It just felt a little bit like Dream Theater by numbers. So The Alien won the Grammy for Best Male Performance in 2022. This whole song just seems like it was made by AI or something. I think my favorite was Invisible Monster. So, are you ready for the tier list? Every single Dream Theater album in one single, pointless, arbitrary tier list. Fuck yeah. So, when Dream a Day Unite, their first album, the vibe of the albums are pretty cool. And they sound alright, to be honest. But I think it's a D, because like there are no classic songs on there. Alright, Images and Words. You know, one of the most landmark prog metal albums of all time. Big Chungus tier. Right, after that, we have It's Awake, right? So I feel like this is a very, very slept on album. So many fucking classics. Massively influential on the modern prog metal scene, this album. I think it's a very high A. All right, Falling Into Infinity. It's so boring. Holy shit, man. This album is dull as fuck. Yeah, I think there's D's just have it. Just. Change of Seasons. It's very nostalgic for me. So I absolutely adore this album. But I think it's for sure a B or an A. I instinctively would call it an A, but because it's an EP and has less music on it, I think we'll stick it down to a B. Right. Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. My personal favorite album. Most bestest Dream Theater experience. I'm putting it at the top of big chungus. All right, then we have 6 Degrees. Personally, not really for me. I think the album is like very forgettable and a bit boring. I feel like it's a little overrated. So a lot of people are saying A, but a lot of people are saying C. We'll stick it as a low B. There we go. Right. Train of Thought. I just fucking love this album so much. Like, every song in here is a fucking banger. I think this goes right at the top of A tier. Right, Octavarium. This is a tricky one because, like, I personally think this is an S tier album, but I know not a lot of people would agree with that. I think we do this because, like, these three are so close. Actually, let's rearrange this a bit. So these are the fucking big chunkus albums, and these are just like God tier. And then Systematic Chaos. High B. I agree. I think it's a high B. All right. Black Clouds, Silver Lining. Some very strong songs on here. Counter Tuscany. I'm just put it in B. Right. Dramatic Turn of Events. It does have some bangers on it for sure. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and stick it here because I feel like it's less consistent than these two albums. Right. Dream Theater, self-titled. So this was a pleasant surprise for me. It's kind of slept on. I think it's a good album. I know generally the community likes Dramatic Turn of Events more, so maybe I'll stick it here. Right. The Astonishing. This is only for Dream Theater diehards who want the full fucking big chungus Dream Theater experience. For like casual listeners like me, this is just like too much. I'm just, no. Straight to the dungeon. Distance over time. Oh, this and the most recent album, I just feel are like really just like Dream Theater by numbers. I kind of feel like this is maybe a C tier album actually. And I'm going to do the latest album here as well. It's just sort of like, they're whatever. They're fine. All right. I think I'm going to leave it at that. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Your bigger chungus pizza.
All right, mate. Do that. Do that. Do that. Nice one.